All right, good afternoon, guys, and welcome to today's class. Before I commence, I would like to know if anyone has a question, any question, so we see how we can tackle the questions. Any questions? Maybe the next 5 minutes thereabouts, just answer questions. And today's class might not be as long as previous classes. So we'll try our best to be fast. All right, any questions?
Okay, good afternoon.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. David.
It's David. Yeah. I'm sorry, I watched your last video
All right.
and there was a place, like maybe at the center of the video, that something skipped. I think there was a part that was missed there. So when you joined the other end, some features were already added to the code, which I didn't get the explanation for them.
Oh, yeah, I noticed it at the last video for call recording. So one video, but we'll try.
So could you just please talk about that part briefly? I don't know.
Okay. For those who were in the last class, I want to be a reminder. We did mostly CSS elements, I guess. We're trying to finish up all our CSS properties. And this was what we touched last week. If I'm forgetting anything, somebody can remind me. I know.
Yeah, I kind of missed cursor margin. No, margin.
Okay. You know how to use background image.
Explanation for cursor, the line gradient and image parts. I don't know, my internet is pushed.
Okay, these parts, right?
Yes, yes, layer gradient and also cursor. I didn't get the cursor explanation. I didn't see where it was applied.
Okay. So let me touch on those ones. All right, I can see Rejoice. Oh, Rejoice is
Then background
right
image
there.
as well, background image.
Oh, yeah, okay. No problem. We'll touch on those ones. Background image and cursor. All right. Rejoice, it's been quite a while. Hello?
I lost my phone, sir.
Oh, sorry for that.
Sorry about that.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. I just got a new one.
Oh, sorry. All right. So before I commence, I want to ask, do we all remember how to open how to open folders through VS Code? I want to be sure everybody knows how to do that.
Yeah, it's cool for me.
You know how to open folders using VS Code. So in case you've forgotten it, this is the process. Just have a folder on one of my directories already. So I'll just navigate to that folder, open it, and I'm there. I want to open this class 3 folder. So that is all right. So let's just briefly touch on background image. Background image is the concept is just, we've done background, and we have this situation where we can manipulate our background color to we can manipulate our background, change our background color to either white, depending on what we want to achieve. So now the concept of background image now has to do is instead of now using color for this effect, we want a situation where we can use images to highlight this effect. We want a situation where we could use images to highlight this effect. So that is where background image comes to play. So let me briefly demonstrate by okay, so from this, okay, see this part. This is the H1, which is the home page. This is the H1, and this is my section. This is my whole section. From here down to this point is my section. So the whole of this my section, I want to give it a background color. Let's say I want it to be red or something. So all I need to do is you can ignore what is happening here. Let me just take it back to plain. Okay. To avoid any confusion, I will just start a plain CSS file rather, and we'll work with that. Plain HTML file. So, and how do I do that? Remember, we can create folders. Remember, we can create folders here, but okay, I have this folder. I have this folder created. Call it. I'm doing this for those who might have forgotten how to open access folders. So this is the folder, and I want to access it. I'll just open a new folder. This folder. I have a plain white folder, a blank folder, and I'm creating my first index.html elements. .html. Okay, so I need to populate this guy. Need to populate this guy. Just want to copy it instead of so that it can be fixed. Sorry, I'm using this my keyboard. I'm still having issues with my. Okay, so this is my plain HTML file, and I want to populate this HTML file. Maybe I'll just grab some things from the other one so that can be fast. Okay, fine. I have this HTML document and collect this guy, my navigation. I'm trying to build my HTML and this is my navigation. And I populate it with this other guy, my H1 elements. Let me say I cut off this whole section, this section. And I embed it here. Okay, let me start with this guy. So this section, and I want to put a background image. And I know we all remember how to use background image for this case. All right, let me share it now. If I want to put a background image to this guy or this my section, all I need to do is I form my CSS, my style.css. Okay, and I'm targeting. Remember that this is the section I'm targeting, and now it has an ID. I know we've done selecting your different parts of your components, different parts of your web page using an ID attribute. So I'm using an ID to select it, and this ID is the home ID. So I want to use it to select, to pick this section and say, okay, I want you to help me put a background color to this section. So I'll be doing a lot of copying and pasting today because okay. So this is the section I want to put a background color to. So if I call that background color, so I call the background color of red to this section, it gets a background color of red. But I guess we know why it's not showing for now. Who can tell me why nothing is happening? Who remembers why nothing is happening? It's not linked exactly. So we need to yes. So we need to implement the link tag to link, saying, okay, this I want you to communicate to this guy and grab the properties I highlighted here. That is what the link tag basically does for us. So this guy is link. And remember that your link is self-closing HTML element. So one of the attributes of link is href. And this is what I'm looking for, style.css, which is this guy here. Which other attributes do we have in link?
Relationship, style sheet.
Who can remember the next one?
Relationship is style sheet. Yeah, okay, then
And the last one that we sometimes don't
Then
add.
type.
Type.
Then
Exactly.
type.
type, yeah.
Right. So right.
Text / CSS.
I type before, sorry. Okay. So basically, the background color has changed to red. Now, what we said was that, okay, instead of using a color for background, I want to use an image for my background color. That was what we talked about one of the things we talked about last week. So I want to add, so the first thing you do is the image you want to use for background color must be found in the same directory, in the same folder as where you're applying it to, like your index.html file. So the first thing I need to do is to get an image here in this folder. This folder you're seeing here is the same folder. Whatever you add there will be reflected on the folder of your desktop. I believe we all know. Like this is my folder. I have first index and style. So if I add it here, I'm doing the same thing. So all I need to do is to add an image to this guy, to this folder. The image I intend using to style my CSS. So I want to choose an image. I have an image folder here. So let me just quickly drag this image folder, drag it and put in this guy. So I have that image folder there. And if I open if I open it here, you see that the same image folder is reflecting here. Okay. It's in the wrong directory. It's supposed to be inside this directory, but it's inside the CSS directory. It's rather all right. Let me just delete that, guys. I have it. I have this image here and I have this image here. All right. So now I want to make these images. I want to make them the background image for my work. They should be in the same, they all should be inside the same directory. I have CSS4, which has these two images and have index.html and style.css. So if I want to use that image as my background image, all I need to do is to add, instead of background color, I just add background image, a property called background image, and I specify a URL. URL is an address, a link to that image, and it sorts out that image. So I can remove this background color and use that as my background image. So let's see what happens. I think our link is broken. Just start again. Okay. This folder doesn't know the folder. Sorry, it doesn't know which folder to open. Okay, this is the folder I'm working with. All right. Yeah, this is what I was looking at. Now we have that image as a background image. How do I know? We have that image as a background image. Let's find out why it's not showing us something else. Index.html. We have it as a background image. All right, so last week I mentioned something. I said your background image property comes with other properties that enables it to work optimally. Now, after specifying the background image, because we have different images, different sizes of different images, another thing you should specify is background repeats. It's saying that this image here, if the size of my container is, sorry, if the size of my container is bigger than the image, I don't want the image to repeat. So background image property comes with other properties that works in hand with it. Background repeat. Another one is background size. Background size. We go for cover. I will explain how we can choose different types of background, different options. But one of the popular ones is we use its option, its cover. So as you can see, that my image, the dog image, is now standing as a background image to my text. So let me change the color of my text so that it will be very clear. Which make my text to color, change it to white. Okay, so you can see. So if I remove the background repeats, if I remove that property, okay, this image is sizable. But if the image was to be, but if the image, what the background cover does is it covers the container that your content is being held in. It enables the image to cover the container. Let's say my image was very small. Let's say this image is say 2 pixels and the whole of my container is around 10 pixels. So if I say cover, I'm saying increase the size of this image. Let it cover the whole of my container. Now, what background repeat does is if that my image is small, if the image is small, let's say this image was small, let's say half of this page, it will now attempt to replicate itself into different parts so that it will cover the whole of the page. But if I say no repeat, what I'm saying is use one, just use, don't repeat yourself, but then I now have to add the background size of cover, telling it don't repeat yourself, but at the same time enlarge yourself rather and cover the whole page. So that is what background repeat and background cover is. Most times, whenever you specify a background image, you always need to call these two properties. Though there are others that are still involved, but these are the most important ones that you must call whenever you specify background image, because in most cases or sometimes the picture you're using might not be the same size as your web page, your web background, the background of a web. So that is why these properties are important. So this is how we use background image, as simple as it gets. No complication, just call it, instead of using background color, you call it as a background image and it does the job. It becomes the background. You can see my color effect is no more. Why? Because this second property is overriding the first property. So that is how background image works. Any questions, especially David and any other person that probably did not get it?
I have a question.
No,
All right. Go ahead, Rejoice.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to ask, you said the background image is overriding the background color. Is it because that one came second, or is it that background image is more powerful than background color?
Because it came second, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because it came second. If I put this guy here and uncomment it, naturally, because any property that comes second overrides the previous property. Like, okay, let me experiment with this guy. This my color is white. I now put red here. Let's see, red. Say change this to red. But image has naturally this color is supposed to override the other color. Normally, the latest property specified takes precedence. It's always like that
over the
in styling,
previous
yeah.
one.
But for some reason, this guy is not changing. Okay, so any other question? David asked the question.
Oh, no question. Thank you for the
Okay,
explanation. I
all right.
want to also know how you easily comment, because it seems you have a shortcut for commenting.
Okay, just press your control and your forward slash. Your control button and your
At
forward
the
slash.
beginning or at the end of the comment.
Okay, just highlight the
Anywhere.
comments, highlight it, highlight the whole lot. Okay, if you place it at the end, the same thing. If you highlight it, the same thing anyway.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
All right.
Control//. Thanks.
Yes, control then forward slash. All right, so any other questions? All right, now let's move on to the next one, which is this property here. Now, what this property does is, you know, there are situations where we want to use two color, like we want this background image that was specified there. As you can see, it's too pronounced. I just closed that thing. I wanted to open it and okay. No, it wasn't.
Go live again.
Yeah. All right. So this our background image, as you can see, is too pronounced. So there are situations when I want to mix this my background image with some color, make it a little bit faint. It won't be too shouty. It will just be behind the scene. Most times you use it for your hero section. Please, as I'm saying this thing, I think I'll be touching some other parts because we're entering, we'll soon be doing some work ourselves. So better we'll start using those terminologies. If you open a web page, that first part you see in a landing page that has, most times it has just an image and a bold text written. It's always called the hero section of every page. So this property is in most cases used for the hero section of your page. So let's see if we can construct a small hero section with our own work here. So I will combine, we'll combine color and image to form a backdrop behind our text. So let's see that in action. So in order to do that, we have to call a property called background instead of background image or background color. We rather call background. And now we have to now specify two gradients of two colors. Just as we know in gradients of two colors. Now we have different types of gradients. We have linear gradients, we have radial gradients, and which other one? Okay, I remember two for now, the linear and radial, and there are other, I think there are two more types of gradients. We'll see how they work. So specify a linear gradient. Then in RGB, please take note, in RGBA, we now specify the colors we intend to use for our styling. The colors we intend to use for our styling, please follow me. This is my RGBA. The first one stands for red, green, and blue. Then the A is for alpha, which is for opacity. We've done something like this before. So let me specify three colors. In RGBA, when you specify 000, it's all black color. Then FFF is all white color. At least these two you can cram these two. Most times when the numbers are the same, it actually tends to one color. Like, okay, I don't know how to make you understand it, but just cram this one. 000 is for black, FFF is for white. Then CCC, DDD, anything between 0 and letter F. When you mix them, that is when you get the other colors. Like if you do CCC, you get an ash color. If you do DDD, you get ash color, but one darker than the other, just like that. So 000 is for black, and I specify my opacity, that is my alpha, to be 0.5. So inside the same bracket, I go again. Remember that in gradients, you have to combine two colors together. That is what we are doing. So you go again, you combine this second color, and specify another. Let me just leave it at that. Then after specifying that, you can now come down here and now specify the URL that you intend to use, which is this what I used here before. I'll just go ahead and grab this one and now specify it here. So see what it will now do. Let's see. I will give it in linear. Oh, sorry. This one is outside the linear gradients. It's not part of color. This one is outside the linear gradient. So after specifying linear gradient, you come outside and you specify this. They should work now. So you see what happened. Let me change this back to white. Now, the more I increase this color, let me increase this to 0.8. So it gets darker. Let me increase this to 0.8. Increase this one to 0.8. See, it gets darker. So you can see that there is an image behind, but the image is not pronounced. What is rather pronounced is the write-up. So apart from using white, I can still use red. Let me see. Let's try it. See? So I'm combining black and red. Now, this linear gradient means that the top, see what happens here? Because I'm using linear gradients, the top, this part of my text, it's red. Then as it's coming down, gradually it's changing to the second color. So that is the effect of the gradients. Let me see. Let me use there's this combination yellow and black. Those are very nice. And one thing you always do in this field, you have to also have an eye for design, color, how to combine colors and stuff. Okay, so depending on the color depending on the color you're using, like the basic colors you're using in your design templates. So you can see we've combined these two colors together. We have our image underneath, and we are getting this. Well, let me go back and stick with my black. Okay, so this is what we have. So this is how we can combine color and we can combine colors and images to form the hero section of our page. But if I want to make it a hero section, all I need to do is to remove this P elements text. So if I want to remove it, I just call H1 here. So, and I increase, let's say I increase the height. This is the height property. Let me increase the height to say 50. So this is the height. And I put a padding, I put padding top, all this 20 pixel. Just want it to come down. Right. That's my padding. The padding top is 50 and my padding, let me specify wrap up. So you can use percentage, you can use pixel. Percentage is I'm just trying to centralize what I'm doing here. All right, so this is what I have finally. This is my hero section. I have this thing here, and naturally to be one big text all over written here like this, but this is what I have as my hero section of my page. So this is how we use the background. This is how we use that property. Let me change this to picture. This is how we use that property. See if it looks too big. Let me just. All right, so let's work with this for now. So this is what I have as my hero section. As my hero section. And I just wanted to, what I wanted to basically demonstrate here is how we can use an image and at the same time combine colors together to get that good looking background that you see in most pages. There you see an image embedded behind the text. So any questions on this? So this section in most web pages, this is what we call the hero section. This is what we call the hero section. You just have an image underneath it and the color combination you want. The image is not too visible. The image is blurred, and you see a bold big text, something written at the center of your web page. So any questions based on this? Oh, move on to
no
the next.
question.
All right. So, all right. So having done this, we've basically touched the parts I know we skipped last week. Okay, done this part, we've done this. Then the cursor, okay?
Hello, sorry, sir.
All right.
About the selector last week, the margin, the universal selector,
okay,
how to collapse your margin.
Okay.
I think that's the part that I skipped in the video because I tried going over it and I couldn't find it.
Okay. Okay, we talked about universal selector, yes. Okay, let me just briefly run through that. Now, universal selector, we said we had different ways of selecting elements. Like what I did here, I selected the home and I selected the child of the home. So this is called descendant selector. I'm trying to target H1. If you even put it, VS Code even helps us. When you put your cursor, you see VS Code shows you the ID that was selected, that's the home, then the H1. So it means that I'm not selecting everything inside of this parent element. I'm only targeting the H1. So this is called descendant selector. The universal selector is when we use this star sign to select. Now, if I use this star sign to select, you see that any property I define here will be applied to everything in my web page. Any property I define here, let's say I say I want all the text to be bold. I want all the text to be capital letters. What property can I use? Somebody should remind me. I want all the text to text what?
Transform.
Transform.
Transform, that's right. And I say uppercase. Okay. So you see everything here, it's uppercase. So what this is selecting any property specified here affect everything in your page. So that's basically what it does. But where do we use it? Because you can't start styling and you now want everything in your page to be this, because it will actually affect your work as you proceed. For instance, let me show you. Say color, and I see red. So everything I'm typing here will be red until I change it in the spec. So I was talking about the universal selector. I said, now any property you apply here will be applied to everything in your web page. So, but what do we use it to do? Basically, it's basically used for, let's say I want to define, if I'm working, I would like to define the font families that I want to use. Let's say I want to define the font families I want to use. So instead of going ahead and typing font family for each of my sections, if I come here and define font family and I choose, maybe I choose this. So you see that this font family is applied to everything in my page. Then in the individual sections, I can now go ahead and change the ones I don't want to be this particular font family. So you can use it to define font family. And another important thing we use it to do is we use it to define the way you want spaces to appear in your pages. Now, every HTML element comes with its own default white space. When I mean white space, as you can see, I didn't define a margin or a padding here, but it naturally just imputed a padding and a margin. I think we'll see it better with CPL. All these things are P elements. See, it just placed a padding, a margin top, margin bottom. I didn't do that. It just did it on its own. By default, that is how HTML elements come. Now, what we can use the universal selector to do, if I come here and I can remove everything padding and margin from my page, I'm saying, okay, I don't want any padding and margin. Rather, I want to start working on my page and put my padding myself. So I've specified it here as 0. So what happens is that every padding and margin in my page will be collapsed. Then I now have to go and start specifying the kind of padding and margin I want. Whenever I want to start designing, this is one of the first things that is recommended for you to do. Reason being that sometimes you finish your work, you will not find out that there is a space somewhere that you didn't impute and you start struggling. For instance, this white space here, this small white space here, you start thinking, why am I having white space here? I want the whole of my background to be black. Especially this part. But you see, it's not touching the edge. So, but if you specify it as 0, you now know that whatever property that has been applied are not default properties that comes with HTML, are properties that you imputed yourself, that you designed yourself. So that is one of the things we do whenever we want to start work. Then another thing, we specify our padding also to 0. So the margin and the padding becomes 0. You know that everything called white space is already collapsed. So I can now start putting white space as I please in my work. Let's say I want to put a white space between this group is my U element, and this is another section of my page. This is the home section. The home section actually starts here, but I'm putting this hero for my H1. So I hope I'm not confusing us. So this is what the universal selector does. Of course, it looks clumsy like this. It doesn't look nice like this. I can now start on my own. I say, okay, for instance, I come here and I say, in this my home section, this is my home section. I want to now employ a margin top, so that I will just create a space between this part and the other part. Let's say I put 20 pixels. See, I now have a space on top, but I know that I'm the one responsible for this my space. So if there is any issue, you see that white space that we had here before has disappeared. So if I now want white space, I can now put margin left, margin right. So that is that's where it's being applied, and also it is to get something that you use that will be generic to every element in your web page. All right, so any other questions? Let me move to the next.
Thank you for the explanation. Okay.
Right,
yeah, thank you for that explanation. Then I have another question.
Okay.
Concerning the anchor element. When styling the anchor element, if you want your anchor element to be horizontal, not vertical,
Okay.
which property do you use?
Okay. You know, in fact, that was what we're supposed to do today. We'll come to that. I just want to rush through this. Yeah, I want to rush. We will do that. This just like this. When you mean anchor elements, what do you mean? These elements?
The links. Yeah, I mean the links.
Okay. Don't call them. These are not elements. These are not elements. These are navigation links. But they are formed with the help of the anchor elements and, of course, the UL elements too. You remember? So don't it will be wrong this thing to say these are my anchor elements. No. See your anchor elements here. See the only thing that is called an anchor element. This guy, this A. This is an anchor element. But when it has finished doing its job, what it produced here for us is a navigation link. It's not only used for navigation link, as we all know, but what we want to use it here for, combine it with our other list, we produce a navigation list. So that's it. But we'll get to that. We'll see that. I understand where you're going to. All right. So any other question?
Okay, please, the universal selector, could someone just style body, like body?
Yeah, sure. You can style body.
Instead of the universal, you could just put all these instructions to body.
Yes. They both do the same thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right. So let me move on to this.
Sorry, when you say body, what do you mean? Like the body itself in HTML?
Yes, the body of HTML element. Let's open the body, inspect the body. The body contains virtually everything you have in your page. So any property you apply to this body applies to everything you have on the page. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we've done.
There's remaining
Hello?
cursor.
I'm sorry.
Hello.
Yeah, I said it's remaining cursor.
Okay, cursor. Okay. Okay. Let me see the best use case for cursor. Now, these are my anchor elements that I defined here. Naturally, if I want to click, okay, they already. I think I've already highlighted this. I've already done that somewhere. But let me go ahead and move this. Okay, this is strange. I never specified cursor, but I've just seen that it's not showing. Let me find out why. You know how to inspect your page, right? You still remember how to inspect your page? Yes. So I want to find out why I'm having my cursor change here, and I didn't specify any cursor. All right. Okay, this is. Can you see what I'm seeing here? Okay, if you notice here, if you inspect this guy, it's showing that by default it comes with this property. Well, I've not noticed this before. I'm just saying it's kind of strange. Okay, you see the cursor is set to pointer by default. So, and it's only for anchor elements, for anchor tags. So the cursor is specified to this. But I say excluding that, let's say I want to make this H1 too. I want to make it have a pointer each time my mouse comes. So I'll just come here and specify cursor and specify the type of cursor, pointer. We have different types of cursor, not just pointer. Pointer is just one of them. Let me see. We have all scroll, we have copy, we have, okay, let me to copy, okay? So let's see what happens here. See, you see this, you see that, see how my cursor changed? I have this only looking plus sign in front. So it depends on what you want to do. Maybe you want to create a page where somebody has to drag an element and you want the cursor to change when the person navigates to that element. So you can use here and say cursor, and there is a drag. Move, okay, move. The way you get close, it changes. So that's what it does basically. So, but the best use case most of the times is when you're styling your navigation, your nav links. When you're styling your nav link, let's say for some reason we didn't include anchor tags in our nav links. We didn't include anchor tags in our nav links. You see that we'll now have to go ahead and now change the cursor to pointer. I don't know if you understand me.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's mostly where we use it. Okay, let me remove anchor tags for this one and demonstrate it quickly before we go to I want us to touch on. Okay. But you know the reason why we have to include anchor elements, right? Because without anchor elements, we can't navigate to different sections of the page.
Yeah.
So that's why we include anchor elements. Although there are other ways of doing it, but for now, actually using HTML, it gives us that flexibility, navigating to different sections. So let me just see these ones. Okay, see this other anchor elements. This navigation is okay. You can see the cursor didn't change. So if I wanted to, after when I'm done with what I'm doing, I come to styling here. I call. Remember that if I want to call LI, I have to first of all call the parents. Now I have to call the parents. Now call the LI that I want to style. Then I impute the cursor. I change my cursor to pointer.
Sorry,
IL.
So yeah, sorry for that. So I can now change my cursor to pointer. So you see, it changes to pointer. So when I come close to this guy, it changes to pointer. So that's basically what cursor does for us. All of this is just CSS doing its own styling here and there to make your website more interesting. Okay, so any other thing? I think.
So with the cursor pointer, let you navigate or just points?
Just points, just pancake, just for decoration, nothing more.
All right, so
It doesn't help you navigate. What helps you navigate is this, is your anchor tags, exactly. So once you click here, you can go to that part. Okay, we've not configured it for this page. So if I click here, natural, I'm supposed to scroll to this. Okay, I think I have about section. I have home, okay, I have home section. Part, and you know it also works with your ID. The reason why the other ones didn't work, because this is the only one I have. It's my ID. So it works with your ID. So whatever I specify as your ID, you should also specify in the href. And so having done all this, I want us to move on to the next thing we have for today. We have a very exciting startup today, which is called Flexbox. Flexbox. Now, what is Flexbox? Flexbox is just, I know I've called CSS pancake. Let me, Flexbox is just like, it's like a module. Let me know, it's just like a concept or a setup, a concept, a setup, a module used for laying out the content of our web pages. Every element we have on, every element comes with its own default way. I know we did block elements and we did inline elements. Block elements appear one on top of each other. Just as the question was raised here, that I don't want my navigations to sit on top of each other. I want them to be spread, just like normal navigations will be. You know, normal website, you will have your logo here, you now have your navigation on this side. I want it to be that way. I don't want it to be like this. That is the power of Flexbox. Before now, we used to use floats to accomplish this, where you float, and there were issues with that until the idea of Flexbox came to be, and Flexbox has been very helpful. Now, how do we implement Flexbox? Just as simple as the name is. Flexbox helps us to position, to force our elements to position them the way we want. But there are different terminologies and different concepts of Flexbox, which I want us to consider. One of it is, number one is the flex container. The flex container. There is something called the flex container. As the name implies, the flex container is the house holding the items that you want to manipulate positions on, or that you want to manipulate positioning on. They are like the container holding them. Then those items inside that container are now called flex items. Example, let's start with a perfect example, our UL elements. In this our UL element, the UL itself can be addressed, can be used as the flex container. While these elements inside the UL are now the flex items. So in order to effect Flexbox on this my UL elements, what I need to do is, I have just one UL element, so I don't need to even go ahead and put any class or ID. So I'll just come here in my UL. Remember that the only where you have to put the Flexbox in the element housing the contents. So here I'll just come here and specify display property. Then the display, the value I want now is flex. I want flex. Immediately I specify this thing, I'm saying that I want to apply Flexbox to this container. So this UL is my flex container. And everything inside of UL, this other element, are my flex items. You see what happened in the screen? It has already aligned itself straight, and I will explain why. Is anybody? I hope we are understanding it to this point. Please, people, if you don't understand this, the flex container and the flex item. The container is most times the parents. Why? The container is always the parents holding the items. So you apply the property of display flex to the parents. Any questions? Can I continue?
No question from me. Yes, sir. Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So having done that, as you can see, immediately our element has aligned straight. Okay. Now, all right. So there are different properties in Flexbox. There are some that we apply to the flex container itself, and there are others that we apply to the flex items. I'll be using these terms as we proceed. Flex container and flex item. There are some that we apply to the flex container itself, and there are some that we apply to the flex item. So one of the ones, a few properties that will apply to the flex container, I'll apply those ones as I go to the next one, are called, number one, the first one of them I want us to consider is, after specifying display flex, next I want us to consider is justify contents. I will be doing it as I explained, justify contents. Now what justify content does is this. It has different properties. It has different properties. Okay, sorry, before I go into that, let me explain another one so that it's. Now, what if I have an element that comes by default in a straight line and I want it to be stacked on top of each other? When I apply flex, you see this my home, about page, how that just spread. You just have aligned yourself in a line that is in line. What if I have an image that is already in line? I have properties that are already in line, like image element most times appear side by side if there is still space in their containers. But I want it to be on top of each other. There's another property called flex direction. Flex direction. So your flex direction, we have 4 major types. We have row, we have column, we have reverse row, and reverse column. So by default, once you say display flex, the flex direction by default for every flex container is row. That's why I see this one by default went to row. But if I insist, if I make it column, it will come back to the way it was before. Can you see? So by default, flex containers their direction are set to row. So immediately you define the property display flex, it automatically aligns it straight in line, because by default the flex direction is set to row. But if you want to make it change direction, you make it stack on top of each other. You can use the column flex, the column value in your flex direction property. Okay, another value in this flex direction is row reverse. I want it to be row, but I want it to be reversed. See what happens. It now goes this way: home, about, contact, career. It changes it in the other direction. Home, about, contact, career. You may ask, where is this applicable? You know, the Arabic syntax, they write from right to left. So let's say you're designing a website that will be used there. So this comes in handy. You can align them. Note what happened. It didn't shift it left. It changed it. It turned it, like it mirrored it to the other side. Home. So because you know they write like this, they write from their right to the left. So just imagine that scenario. So that is what row reverse does. We still have column reverse, which does, as you will predict, the opposite of what column does. It turns it to the other way around: home, about, contact, career. So these are the 4 major values of our row properties. But if I remove it here, it goes back to row. Why? Because by default, my element was stacked on top of each other. So immediately I define flex to the container, the default property of flex for flex direction is already row. So I don't need to actually define row. But for the sake of this class, I'll just define it here. But you don't need to define row, except you want to change it to either column or reverse or the other way around. That is it for flex direction. The next property that we are, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. The next property I want us to can apply to the flex container is called.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
All right.
Hello, sir. Yes. Sorry, there was a question that the lady was trying to find out,
Okay.
and I'm trying to view it. Okay. What about if the direction you want to put this text, our navigation, maybe
Okay.
you want to turn it vertically, take the word standing vertically, like that. You know, there are some web page when you open, you see one of the navigation buttons is standing vertically. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
It means something like this. Okay.
I'm not seeing it
Sorry.
clearly.
You mean, let me.
Like you can separate them. You can separate the navigation button.
You mean this?
No, this is what we are used to seeing now.
Okay. And
I'm talking
what
if you vertical, you put the words on the navigation button, coming from top to bottom, as in facing upward. Like
Like
one of the
in normal Microsoft Word where we have text direction.
yes, something like that.
We did column reverse now, so I don't know if that's what you're asking.
Okay, for instance, if you use word add, in MS Word,
Okay.
yes, you know there is a way you can turn the words facing up or facing
360
down,
degrees, I would rotate the word.
something like that, to rotate it to the other side. I don't know if that's possible with this.
Everything is possible with CSS, but the property responsible for that effect is not your flexbox. Everything is possible with CSS, but the property responsible for that effect is not flexbox. We have other properties like transition that we also look into as we proceed. You understand? So, but for now, what we are looking at is how we can, what Flexbox actually does for us is how we can place the content of elements on our web page. It's not used for decorative effect or anything. There are other properties that are used for that, which as time goes on, we'll also look, if we have any reason to look at them and look at what they do. Now, what we do in this class is we give the basic things we know that are popular in websites. Like any website you open, you see navigation, you see this. Now, there are other properties, so many of them, they are not, in fact, CSS properties, even HTML elements, every day new ones come out. So when you see one, you can bring it up in class, we can brainstorm together and look at, okay, how are they able to implement these effects and stuff. But everything is possible, almost everything is possible with CSS. That's what I can assure you. Anything you think about, you can do with CSS. So I don't know. So if you have a specific example, maybe you can drop it on the Slack channel. We'll look at it and see how it was affected. Because I'm actually not really getting what you meant by the question.
It's
So
okay.
yes.
I'll do that subsequently, sir.
All right. Okay, so for having said that, we understand what Flexbox does. You see how with the power of Flexbox, we're able to change direction of this guy. So another property I want us to look at that we can apply to Flex container is the justify content property. There's a property called justify content. Now, what does justify content do? What it does is it affects the flex items themselves. It tells the flex container, this number of flex items you have inside of you, I want you to spread it in the whole space you have, in the whole space available for you. Spread them. See, they are clustered with each other. They are clustered. But even with that, of course, another way we can do this, if we apply margin to each of them, the margin left, they'll be shifted. But even without applying margin, justify content gives us that ability to position, it helps us to position the flex items. It helps us position flex items. Let me start with the first one. Let's say I want to position it at the center. You see, without doing anything, the whole of my flex items, they move to the center, giving space on this side. So I can apply, of course, margin left, and it will be shifted. But basically what it does, before it was here, justify content places it at the center. Let's say I want to place my navigation at the center. This is what justify content can help you get. Another value of justify content that is also important is space between. See what it does. Space between will now distribute these flex items to be evenly distributed. The spaces between them will be the same, evenly distributed. So there will be space between them. What it does is it places two at the edge, then it shares the remaining space amongst the others. It places one left, places one right on the right, and shares the space among them between the others. So that is what justify content does. And it also has another property called space evenly. Yeah, space evenly to do the same thing, but this time around, as you can see, there's a space here, there's a space here to space them evenly. Another one called I think it has, let me see, justify content. Yeah, It has space evenly. Okay, it has flex start, it has flex end. We'll talk about that now. Flex start is already the default. It also has flex end. See flex end. As you notice, it did not reverse the row, but it just shifted everything to one end. So in most of our pages, in most of your designs, most times your navigations are always found the right-hand side of your page. So you can see seamlessly we shifted it to the right-hand side of our page. So that is what that property does. Please let me remove these buttons and this on the line. So let me just remove it. I know we know how to remove it. I'm not believe there's anyone in this class who doesn't know how to remove those buttons. So what property do I define to remove them?
Text decoration, Abi.
No, not text decoration. This style. Remember, our order list comes with default list style as dots, as I think circle. So we have to remove it changing it to none, saying that I don't want my list style to be dotted.
Disk.
Okay. So let me say let me put margin left of each of them. Margin left, so I'll just place them. Say 5 pixels. Okay, so is it making sense now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is what
Yes,
flexbox. Somebody's asking a question. Okay, so this is what flexbox helps us to achieve. This property justify content. Remember I said it has also center. I want to put my navigation at the center of my page. It can do that for you. See, it is found at the center of your page. Depending on what you want. Okay, so let me leave it as at the end, because that's where I want it to be for my own design. All right. So another important property we'll look into. Another property we'll look into in the flex container is called align items. Align items. Now, what does align items do? Just as okay. All right. Just as your justified content helps to align the flex items in either flex start, center, flex end, and the other properties that comes in between. In the horizontal direction, in quotes, I will explain why I say in quotes. Your align items aligns them in the opposite direction. This is my horizontal. This is my opposite direction, which is my vertical direction. So this align items, so it also has flex start, flex end, and center. We might not see the effect here, but I will show you what it does when we put another element. But just know that you can place your element at the center, at the start, or at the end. We will see the effect soon. Now, before we proceed, your flex container has two axes, called the main axis and the cross axis. Now, depending on your flex direction, please note, depending on your flex direction, if your flex direction is set to row, your main axis is your row, which is your horizontal axis, is your main axis. And your cross axis will be your vertical axis, because your flex direction is set to row. But if your flex direction is set to column, your main axis becomes the vertical axis, while your cross axis becomes the horizontal axis. Please don't get confused with that. So your main axis is always the axis to which your flex direction is set to. So if I change my flex direction to column, my main axis will become column. Now, this is why I explained that justified content aligns your flex items in your main axis. While align items arranges your flex items in your cross axis. Your justified content, you always align them in your main axis, because in this case, my flex direction is row. So my justified content will be applied to the elements in my main axis. But if I change this, my flex direction to column, my justified content becomes my main axis becomes vertical. So my justified content will now apply this my flex direction. See the funny thing happening here. Now this my flex direction will now be positioned. Okay, you might not. Okay, don't worry, you understand it. This my flex direction will now be applied vertically from flex start, flex center, and flex end. To make us understand that, let me add a logo to our design so it will be clearer. Just let me add a logo to this design. I have these elements here. Let me call this my nav. Okay. I want to add a logo to our website. Okay, so yeah, I'm creating a container to hold my logo and my navigation. So in this my logo, what can I use for my logo? Okay, let me use picture. Let me use an image. Image. Let me use an image.
You can drink like at least like.
Let's just follow along. Okay, let me employ an image. So, okay, this is white dog. Okay, it's actually very big. So I hope we still remember how to style it, make it smaller. See, this is the image, it's big, so I want to reduce the size. So how do I style it? I don't want to style all the image. So I can call my nav and now call the image, because my nav is embedded inside the image. The image is embedded in the nav. I can call the nav and call the image. And I say I want to make it in the width. Let's say 100 pixel. Change the heights. 100. So okay, so it will be smaller now. Okay, that's the image, and this is my logo. So let me show you one trick. In case you want to make an image rounded, this is what you do. Just do border radius. Choose a border radius of 50%. Choose a border radius of 50%. You make your image rounded. So you can see my image is rounded. Just a quick hack. But your height and your width must be the same. Must be the same size to get that rounded image. So that's my logo. Now, you can see this is my nav container. My nav container is now holding my image and my URL elements. So I have a nav, I have image. So what can I transform to the flex container? Because I want to apply flexbox to this section. What becomes my flex container?
I think it's the nav container.
Yes, the nav. And the flex items becomes the UL and the image elements. Note, you can have flex applied inside flex. For example, this my UL is still a container on its own, but it's a container to these other ones. But it's now a flex item to the nav. So it's a flex item to the nav. So the nav has two flex items, the image and the UL elements. Why the UL now has 4 flex items inside of it. So as rightly said, I haven't applied that. So I come to my nav here and I call display flex on my nav. I call display flex on my nav. So automatically, you see, the two children of my nav are now aligned side by side, because by default, display flex tells them, keep them side by side. Now I want to go ahead and shift this guy to this end. I can now use which property? Remember, there's a property we can use to separate them together that we can apply to the flex container. Justify contents. If I justify the content and I say space between, see, it has shifted them. So I have my image and I have my other elements. Let's change this guy back to row. We changed it to column before. Let's transform it back to row. So this is how it is. Now see what now happens here. I've applied this property. I want to show you how these aligned items work. So in this case now, you know that because I did not apply a flex direction, automatically it is row because I did not change it to column. But if you notice, my image is sitting here and these other elements are sitting below as if there's a space. They are not centralized. So I would like to centralize them, make them central, put them at in the same line. So that is where your align items comes to work. So what it now does is it now aligns the items either to be centralized in the container, in the knife container holding them. As what is happening here is that this one is on top, this one is beneath. So the all right, let me go ahead. Okay, so I think somebody's phone is interfering. Okay. All right, so the align items, what it now does is if I put it here, see the effect, align items. Okay, sorry. So I did flex end. So I'm saying push my elements to be at the end, but I want to make it central so it can align them together. You can see they are almost in the same box. Even if I put a border around them, I think you appreciate it more. Let me put a border. 1 pixel. Red. Solid. See, you can see that in the same box and the space between them. So what will happen is the biggest element in the box will determine how others will be aligned. So they'll just be aligned at the center. So that is what that property does. So you can see the difference between align items and justify contents. That's the difference. Now remember that this one here, it's itself another flex container that can be manipulated. So if I come and change, I still want this guy to go back to column the way it was before. So let's work with column here. So I have this like this, but my justified content in this case now, for this one, flex end. The reason why it's this way is because of this flex direction, this item. So you can see it has changed. The nav container is doing this one by separating them, while this one is still working on its own, aligning its items in this direction. So that's for flex container. These are some of most of the properties we use for flex container. I don't know if there is any question, because this point is a very important section. You'll be using flexbox a lot. In fact, using flexbox a lot. Then maybe after we do CSS, but I think we use flexbox a lot. So if you have a question, please, you're free to ask. All right, so I will just continue. Now, there is another property of this flex container that is also nice we look into. It's called flex wrap. It's called flex wrap. Okay, it's called flex wrap. Okay, let me think of the best use case for flex wrap. Okay, now we are done with our nav section. Let's apply flex wrap for our P elements. These are all P elements. These are all P elements. These are all our P elements. And now we want to style this side of our page. We want to style this side of our page. Want to style them. Now, because I want to style all my P elements. I want to style all my P elements. Having said so far that I want to use flexbox in styling them, but they are sitting as individual elements. How do I style? I don't want to style H1. This one is not among what I want to style. I want to style these P elements. I want them to appear side by side. So what do I need to do? The first thing I will do. Hello? Can anybody help us out? Having understood, let me give you a hint. You only apply flex item. You only apply display flex to flex containers. So if you have several children that you want to style, they need to have what?
A container.
Container. Now you now understand why we're doing divs. The reason why we're doing div, we're doing section, header, and the rest of it. You now appreciate it more. So because what I want to style, I don't want it to affect my H1. I want to style only my P elements. So what I will simply do is to create a container that will now hold those P elements. The container can be in any form, ranging from div, especially div elements, to either HTML, special HTML syntax that we also talked about. So let's use div in this case. You see here, I use nav. Nav is actually, there are some reserved words we use as stylings. Like nav, we have header, we have nav, we have article, and so a few of them. For instance, I can change this to header because it's the header section I'm trying to style. So if I change this to header, but I have to go and change the properties are applied. My style properties are applied. So these things are just like containers holding what you want to do. So this header is also one of the syntax that is allowed. There are a few of them. We have header, we have nav, we have article, we have main. I'll be using them as we proceed so that we also see what they do. But header and nav most times work when we are styling navigation or head section, as the name implies. Now I want to use main because I'm styling these parts. But basically, main is used after here. I can use main to wrap. Okay, we will still use it. But let me give you an example. I have different sections. I can now use main to wrap them together. The word is just main, M-A-I-N. So if I have different sections, but here I just have one section. Let's say I have different sections. I can now use main to wrap all of them together. So here, let me use div here. So I apply my div. Apply my div. So I have to now copy everything I want to work on inside into that div element that I just created. So I'll cut this, and I'll paste here. I'll paste here. So I have them all in the div. So this div is now a container holding this my element. If you even open the preview, the first thing you notice is that, yeah. So div is the container holding all of my elements. Okay. All right. So now I want to now style this div, but the first thing I should do is to give it a class, because I will have different divs, or I will have divs that I want to have similar properties or similar characteristics. So let me give it. You can also give it an ID, but the ID must be unique to this div. But in most cases, you ID sections of your pages, not just part of a section. You ID sections in most cases. So I call it a class. I call it what do I call it now? It's in the home, say the home paragraph. This name is peculiar to you. Can call it any name here, but any name you use here must be what you use while styling it. So if you want to style with something is wrong, what is wrong? Anytime you see this mark, it means that something is wrong in your code. So you have to find out what is wrong. Okay, this is showing here. Okay, say this. Yeah. Okay, so if I want to style it, I have to call that class name in my div, and I called it. What did I call it, please? Call it home paragraph. Okay. Home paragraph. And when giving class name, I know I said it the last time. Your class names, if you're using two words, they must be joined with an hyphen or underscore, or you join them together. But you can't separate them. If you separate them, they're treated as different class names. Home paragraph. Yes. So this problem is. Okay, so this is my home paragraph. This is not the style I want. So the whole of my own paragraph now starts here. First of all, let me give it a margin top. I will create a white space. Let me call it 30 pixel. I have this nice white space up there. All right. So in my home paragraph, I have different P elements. And let me target, okay, I have different P elements. So let me give the P element a border. Okay. Let me give it a border. So I appreciate it more. I'll give it a border and I'll put a margin in between them. I have a small margin also for each of the individual P elements, call it 10 pixel. For each of the individual, I have a small margin there. Let me give it a nice border. Okay. Nice border. I want to change my border. I don't want it to be red. Let's use this. Okay, so it gives you this nice gray border. I told you about this using 333 DDD. They give you this. They give you grayish color 777333. Once the numbers are the same, gives you this gray background. All right. So haven't done that. This is what I have. So these are my paragraphs, the paragraphs inside this. So these paragraphs are the flex items of this class name called home paragraph. These P elements, these paragraphs are the P elements are the flex items of this paragraph. Now I want them to appear as flex. Okay, so the first thing I should do in the container is say display flex. So immediately see what happens. They are now sitting, see, display flex. And now by the side of each other. So this is what happens first. And display flex, then okay. Let me specify a width. I want to specify a width for each of them. Give it a width, and I'll tell you why I want to do that. Only 50 pixels. There's a property I want us to see. Okay, this one is small. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay. So them I call it 1500 pixel. So each of them is 1500 pixel. Now see what happened. Each of these elements is 1500 pixel, which means that at some point there will be too much. Let's say I have so many of these P elements. They will now form a screw. See a screw here, because their total width is more than the normal size of my screen. So it becomes automatically imputes a screw so that you can see the elements that are hidden. But in order to avoid this, we want to apply a property that will make it form a second row underneath instead of trying to place them on the same row, because by default all your flex items will appear on the same row by default. So you use a property called flex wrap to tell you that, okay, if it has occupied the space that was allotted for it with the container, please send any other thing to the next row. So if we apply it here, apply it on the flex container. We call it flex wrap, and you say wrap. The default is no wrap. Say wrap. What happens? This is my 1500. The 1500 I specified. Now let me, sorry. Okay. Sorry. If I apply this flex wrap, no wrap, I think I was supposed to also show you something. This is the default size. Now, because I did not define a height, so it's sort of increasing like this, increasing horizontally, it increased vertically also. So you might not see that effect of flex wrap. Well, let me specify a height. Let me call this, let me say, I want it to be in the container that is no more than, that is just exactly 500 pixel, for example. Right. Okay, it's 300 pixels. Okay, see what I was even talking about. See what happened. But the contents are actually large. It might not fit in. Okay, let's just go ahead with the example. But basically, this is what I'm trying to avoid. What I'm saying here is, if it becomes too much, please take it to the next room, which is what happened when I implemented this property of flex wrap. And I said wrap. So it will wrap it in one row and send it to the next row. Send the other one to the next row. So let me reduce this guy to 500 now. Because my text is actually okay. Yeah. So this is what I was actually looking for. So this width from here to here is 500. This one is 500. So if it has gotten to this point, it will send it to the next row. But without this flex wrap, the default is no wrap. Either you put it or you leave it like that. You don't put it. The default is no wrap. It will want to place them all in one line, and rather than bringing it to the next line, to place them in one line and introduce a screw that you can use in viewing the remaining ones that could not be viewed on the page, depending on the size of the browser. But if I change it to wrap, it will force it to shift to the next page. So this is what flex wrap and wrap does for us. But it is implemented, remember, in the flex container. Remember, it is implemented in the flex container. So if you see those cards you normally see on your pages, this is how, in most cases, you form them. Maybe you have write-up, you want them to be in a card form and stuff. This is how, in most cases, you form them. So is it clear? Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I haven't done that. I think this might be our last section today for this one. So I haven't said that another property that we'll also be looking at is, now we've done properties that can be applied to the flex container. I'll now just touch a few properties that you can apply to the flex items themselves. There are not much of them, just a few of them. The first one is align self. We've done align items. Now we want to do align self. Now what does align self do? Align self. Okay, align self. Okay, what does align self do? We don't align items. This is what we have. These are 8 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And okay, let me apply. Let me put a margin. Let me apply a margin left. I'll have a space. Hope you still remember the shorthand version of margin top, margin left, and stuff. Please don't forget it. In left, okay. It has further taking it downwards. Further taking it downwards. See, the more if you shrink your browser, it goes down because I've increased the size of my browser, so it comes back like this. So 50. Okay. All right, so limits. Okay. So this is what I have here so far. It doesn't sit well. All right. So because this one wouldn't fit here, so you just brought it down to this part. So, but what you can do is you can apply the same margin to the whole container here so that it to be centralized. And I'm sure we will do that. I'm sure we remember how to do that using maximum weight and stuff. Okay. So how do we use align self? Align self is applied to the flex item itself, not the flex container. Let's say for some reason, after styling my work, I want a particular P. I want a particular P to behave not like the others. Let me give an example. Like this P. I want this P to be aligned. Okay, which is a perfect example. Okay. Okay. Let me use this example. Let's say in this my nav, instead of having three elements, I have 4. Let me introduce. I have, instead of having 2 children, I have 3. Let me introduce another guy here. Introduce another element here. Time is fast spent. Only takes 1. I'll call this guy record. Let's say for some reason you're designing and you want to place one text that once they log in, that's the first thing they see. Let's say, okay, let's say you have some, all these, these icons they place. But for now, I'm not using icons, so I'll just write anything icon. Maybe you have a nice icon you just want to place at the center of your page. Now, this icon is also now part of our flex item. It's also now part of our flex item, and we want it seated there at the top, seated there at the top. So we can now apply align self property to this icon alone. Is the nav, is the only H6 element inside the nav. So let's go and look for it and style it. Entering the nav, entering nav is the only H6 element. Remember that our align items is centralized, they are all centered, but I want this icon for some reason best known to me. I want it to be down, I want it here, or I want it up. I don't want it to behave like the others. So that is where our align items comes in. We'll now go to align self. Sorry, align self, not align items. Align self. It also has center, it has flex start, flex bottom, and the rest. So let me go to flex end. Okay, if I go flex end, it will go this way. See, it has, if I go, it came down. So let's say for some reason you want, even after styling all of them, you want one to behave in a certain way. So you can use align self to target that particular, just as the name implies, align self, which means this property is now aligned to, is now peculiar to just that item, despite the fact that the general property that governs the other item in terms of alignment alone might not affect that, will not affect that property. Sorry, not might not, will not affect that property. So because you know, align items was center, this one and this one are centralized, but it now came down on its own because I use align self to rather bring it down instead of making it align with the others, with the other children in the container. So I don't know if we have a question. I want to stop here on flexbox. We'll continue, just do a little bit of other things on flexbox next week, then go dive into another important CSS. But from what we've learned so far, I'm sure we know how to style our elements. And the question that was asked before, I have element, I want to style it, I don't want it to be looking like this and stuff. So I'm sure we know how to do that. So any questions? Ideally, this guy should be sitting in the center of my page. Should be sitting somewhere here at the center. Any question? Please. I will remove that icon. I don't want it there. I just did that to show you how align items works. Align items can also work for this P, but remember that if I apply to P, I'm applying to all the P. So what if I need to apply to any of the paragraphs? I need to now go to that paragraph. And what I'll now do, I will now add a class to this particular paragraph. I can now add a class to this particular paragraph or an ID to this paragraph. Let's say I call it second. So I can now come, I will now go to where I started and now apply and align self property to that paragraph, which I think is this paragraph, but it's sitting okay, it's sitting normally here. In cases where probably, I'm trying to even look for the best use case so that I will see. But it's sitting fine here, and there's no other white space to fill. So that is what align self does. You use it once in a while. You use it once in a while to work. But these ones we just did today are the basic ones. Another one we'll also be looking into is the flex grow, flex basis, flex shrink. Those ones, they come up once in a while too. They are also used to style your flex items. Your flex grow basically says, okay, let me see if I think I can apply flex grow to this last element. For this last P, so we'll just have an idea how it works. Flex grow. I'm just trying to see how we can round up this. All this guy lasts. Your class names should be unique. Anything you want to give them, but make sure you're giving class names that make sense. That this last doesn't really make sense, but I'm just doing it for sake of this example. Or you know, it doesn't make sense to call. You have to give it a name that you can easily relate with what it's doing. Like this one, I call this one home paragraph. I'll be assuming that I'll have other sections like that. So first of all, I know that okay, it's a paragraph that's sitting in the home section, the home ID section, the home ID. Okay, so I called it last. Let's see. Let's grow. Give it a value of 1. Okay, yeah. This is what it does. Let's grow range. The value ranges from 0 to 1. So this guy now, what I'm saying is that occupy the remaining space, whichever remaining space in the container that is here to be occupied. So that particular element now occupies the remaining space. So that is what flex grow does. So I'm growing this element to be twice bigger than the others, not even twice. If I have a space, if there is no element here, it will sit here and occupy the whole of this space. So it will just occupy the remaining space in your container, in your flex container that is yet to be filled. That is what flex grow does. So you're saying that, and it is applied to flex item. So you're saying that this particular item, please grow in capacity and fill the remaining space. I don't want any other white space. So you can see there's a white space here. So ideally, if I specify any of these elements to shift these ones, and that whichever element I specify to cover this remaining white space. So that is what flex grow does. Then we still have flex shrink, which is opposite of flex grow. It does the opposite of what flex grow does. It shrinks the elements. Well, it shrinks the element, but in this case, it's used in cases where you don't have enough space. I want to shrink one particular element to be small, but here I have enough space. Let me say, okay, I think you guys can implement it by increasing the sizes. No. I want to think of best use case for flex. Okay, but basically what the grow does. Let's say this my page stops somewhere here, and I still have one element that is overflowing. And here, why we are not seeing the effect here is because I did not specify a given height for my container. I did not specify any given height for my container. But if let's say I specify a given height for my container, which means I'm telling my container stay within this height, so it doesn't have that freedom to move to the next row. So what to do? It will now shrink those any element I want it to shrink just to make it fit in the row. So those are, then we have flex base. Flex base is the property of flexing, can be 0, can be 1. Then we'll also have flex base. Flex base is just basically, flex base is, basically saying that, okay, my elements, my P elements should take the default size of the container. The flex base is just the default size of the container. It's the default, it's like the base size of the container itself. I'm not increasing it. So if I put a flex base there, it's meaning that element cannot be increased beyond that size. So I can't apply shrink or reach to it again. It will remain that size until probably I remove the base and change it to something else. So that is it for flex items. Please, any questions? We have less than 10 minutes to round up this session. Any questions? Hello?
Well, sir, thank you so much. There is no question from me, just I have a request.
Okay, what was the request?
Please, the network for myself has not been very stable for the last part of this class. So I've not been following exactly what we were doing. So just I'm playing that if you could make the videos available at an early day of the week.
Okay, no problem. Work on that. That's fine. Work on that.
Thank you so much.
All right. So any other questions? Any questions? All right. So I think we can call it a day here. And as I said before, if let's say you have friends who still like to be part of what we're doing, we have somebody joining us today for the first time, but the person reached out to me that he wants to be part of this. And I told the person to go watch the YouTube videos, and the person watched the videos. And if you watch the videos and probably within the week they have questions, they can ask the questions, because we don't want a situation where we come to class and we're actually going backwards, maybe going to show somebody how to start writing HTML. So if the person can watch the videos and within the week, they can reach out to us. We have our Slack channel. You can send them a link to join our Slack channel. We can reach out, answer their question. Myself and Mr. Mike can answer their questions. Mr. Mike has been very busy. That's why you haven't heard from him. He's been very, very busy these few days. So we can answer the questions they need to ask and get so that when we come for classes, they are following along. They're not taking us back. If they have questions, just maybe feel clarity. Okay, why is this like this? And so if you have people who still want to join, the first recommendation is they have to go ahead and watch the videos so that follow along while we finish. So hopefully our target is to see if we can finish CSS latest by middle of July. We should finish CSS. So we'll now go straight to JavaScript and start manipulating elements. As a simple task, I want you to replicate what we did in class today on your own. Get an image, put a background color, do what we did today. But additionally, I want this thing to be centralized. I want it to be written bold. The font size should increase it to be bold, written here in the center of your web page. Then you can implement this one. This one, what I want you to do is, instead of having 6, just have three boxes. And the spaces here should be the same. Space here, space here, and they should be spaced evenly. Yeah, they should be spaced evenly, but 3 boxes. So just to give you a hint, you can give them a width, a defined width, so that you know, okay, this is their width. And so go and replicate what we did here, but additionally make this, centralize this, and also make this one, get 3 boxes that talks about, this is our about page that talks about what we do and stuff. So I think in the absence of any question, I'll be stopping here and see you
Thank you,
next week.
sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Ready,
Thank you, sir.
have a nice weekend. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.